Good afternoon. How are you? Well, Thomas Jefferson says our temperature is 77 right now. It was up in the 80s earlier. There were some concerns about rain, but not a lot. And the humidity is 58%. And the wind is at a comfortable 3.3 miles an hour. Let's go through a couple of things that are wrong about America because of the Trump regime, the incompetent people, the corrupt people, the lying people that are the heartless and soulless center of political gravity in our nation, facing little enough resistance to make the public confident that we're going to remain a republic and a democracy and not become a dictatorship. But there are several events today that shout that we should be doing something in response. And not just you and I. We're doing what we can do. But the people in a position to make a difference are not doing it. One of the hosts today on MSNBC, whom I think is outstanding in her coverage of what's going on and getting the guests to discuss topics that invoke her knowledge and experience but refine what she has to say. And at the end of the segment that she hosted today, exasperated, I think is a fair way to describe how she sounded. And she sounded in such a mind that you could not disbelieve what she said. And it was kind of a, how would I say, stoic acceptance that we'll just be witnesses, meaning the journalists will be witnesses. But will they be witnesses to profiles in courage? Not in the Congress, no. In the administration, not a single one stands up to Trump and his unlawful, unconstitutional, hateful passage through the days that go like weeks when he is the chief executive of what was once the greatest country in the world. And now we're at risk. And when we're at risk, we're all at risk. So here's a couple of examples that come to my mind. 20 states, give or take a statement, my math may be off, they keep the peace and the people safe. That is their mandate. And they don't want a person to suffer crime for fear that when complaining, the person might be exposed to the immigration police, and so they would suffer more or at least be chilled in the exercise of invoking their local government to be safe, and for neighbors who do not have this fear to be safe. Now, states are not an extension of federal authority. I mean, Hitler had a different view. Mussolini had a different view. Stalin had a different view. That has not been our role. In fact, the 10th Amendment to the Constitution basically says the states enjoy the police powers. It's reserved to them. And consider the fact that the federal enforcement of federal laws is left to the feds. You know, our taxpayer dollars need not go to compromise the safety of a community because there's a federal police function that Trump believes the states should just collapse. And whatever their reservations or their approach to safety and security, whatever Trump wants, Trump gets. Could be a song, right? So that's one thing. Trump has been talking about considering invading Mexico to chase cartels. Now that's pretty interesting stuff. Invading Mexico. Now, of course, whenever Trump is caught at these things, he throws up a smoke screen. Oh, I didn't say that. I'm not going to do that. I mean, as recently as a couple of days ago, there's not going to be a meeting. What are you talking about? The vice president having a meeting that has anything to do with Epstein. That's ridiculous. Anyhow, the Mexican president, Claudia Sheinbaum, she said, forget it. There's not going to be an invasion. So another nation state pushes back. Does Trump respect that? It's like he lines up alternatives, and then because, well, the resistance is so divided, so factionalized, that they're not sure what to respond to. And there are choices and ways to do that. There's political intelligence, there's human intelligence, there's logic, there's narrow alternatives. Where is that thinking? It doesn't appear anybody who is a politically elected official who's a Democrat or liberal or resisting Republican or independent. Where are these people? And there's an old saw in political life that goes something like this. If your opponent is suffering, don't run in and talk about it because you may help him. Really. So you would let one argument be told, not resisted, not let it be overrun by a court case, a demonstration, an impeachment, a censure, a rally. None of those things. Just sit there. The Cajun, no, that's not right. Well, anyhow, Carville has this view, in my opinion. He believes in the sit on your hands thing and let your friend, your opponent, drown in his own corrupt juices. Yeah, well, that hasn't worked with Trump so far. We've been doing this since 2015. Maybe we should try a different way, huh? You think so? Now, another one. Trump attacks Canada, right? And that accounts now for fewer Canadians coming to the United States. And one measurement has been the number of cars coming back to Canada, of the residents, and it's down 33%. We also have the kind of Louis XIV kind of misconduct, the kingly way. Now, say you were going to have a birthday party, and you looked out and you said, well, you know, we can eat something by the shore, but we really can't take out our small, inexpensive boats because the water's low, you know, and we haven't had rain, and so we can't do that. Okay, that's what you and I would do. But Prince Hillbilly Vance had the U.S. military engineers raise the waters, increase the level of the waters, the Miami River, for his birthday party. There's a lot of that in this administration. I think that we should be celebrating their death when it occurs. I have no interest in celebrating their birth. We were cast into a room full of demons. And I speak metaphorically, I don't believe in demons. Unless you can define Hillbilly Vance as a demon, Trump is a demon, Epstein, just go through them. We got a baker's dozen of people, all of whom have proven themselves to be unworthy to have any public position, and yet, where is the resistance? Where is the opposition? Trump is meeting with Putin to get his marching orders, to see what Putin wants Trump to do. There's nothing else for him to talk about. Putin has decided to draw a line and be on the other side of anything having to do with Trump. And I think the meeting is more likely for Putin to call in the chits for electing this guy the first time and perhaps helping him behind the scenes when he ran this most recent election. They're in Alaska for this meeting next week, I guess. How cool. Well, two things. We should celebrate our heroes, because that's the spirit of America that is in rare evidence these days. And we should stick to the values that matter and cooperate more to make them happen. If our best leaders in the nation, and I'm not being facetious here, are thinking of running for president, they should think first about how we come together. The best of our leaders, California, Illinois, perhaps New York, wherever. They should almost have a gathering, declare themselves the democratic resistance, and offer a program of opposition in court, at hearings, in legislation, action. But they don't. Why? We kind of understood it with the Republicans, their phony baloney jobs. And now we could ask ourselves, is the only reason we're seeing some of them is because they're concerned that when the lines are redrawn, they'll still be elected to those positions. Outrageous. When a correspondent is exasperated about what may happen, should happen, we should feel the same thing. And we should persist, because these are such fearful creatures that they will respond to us saying, what the hell are you doing? The phone call that you make to their office every week, say on a Monday, the ACLU contribution you make, $15 every quarter of the year, the local political organization you go to that is concerned with us becoming a dictatorship and less concerned about winning an election, because I'm not sure there's going to be a midterm election. These motions are not for a midterm election, or they're for a fixed election. And Trump is going to make the decision alone, without resistance by we the people, because we the people are not represented by those we elected. So let me close on this note. You may remember Jim Lovell. I was one of those kids, when I had better eyesight, in New York, could see Sputnik go across the sky at night. And I had done magic tricks, but then I realized science, that was the real trick. Gravity, electricity, all these things. Rockets in space. And years later, I met Jim Lovell, who was the captain of the famous Apollo 13. I represented him and several other astronauts. And he died at 97, I think today, maybe yesterday. And because of the case I was handling for any astronaut who went to the moon or had, well, it's a long story, but it was an interesting question. But the best thing for me is an individual and a lover of the notion of space, still wishing that some of the great writers were the ones we were listening to and talking to, instead of the assholes that want to put nuclear material on the moon. And I wonder how long you lasted. And I don't know, what is it, 240 degrees Fahrenheit? Poof! You're there, then you're not, you're dust. Anyhow, Lovell was a hero, as were others. And we need more of his kind of people. His famous line, you may remember, is, and I may get part of it wrong, Houston, we've got a problem. Because he had the ship that had difficulty and didn't make it. And there was a real question whether they'd make it back. And 3-digit engineering with a slipstick, meaning a slide rule, and the accumulated experience and knowledge of the people on that mission brought them back. He was a man who took a risk. He had great capabilities. We dared to do something exciting and important, and there have been scientific benefits from it. And one of the greatest failures of America is that we're not funding it and doing it the way we should. You know, $200 million for a grand hall in the White House when there are so many buildings in Washington, D.C. So, what's my point? My point is, spend a moment thinking of Lovell and the other men who were the pioneers in space and what that meant for the character of America. And think about our loss when we have such unworthy people as Trump in position to destroy what has brought to America and the world such astounding people. And, well, until tomorrow, I'll talk to you then. All the best. Bye-bye.